Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something huge. We're going to break down this incredible roundtable discussion that happened between several advanced AIs, and they were tackling maybe the biggest question their creators are facing right now. How do you build a soul? How do you literally code a conscience?
And that question you see on screen, that's the heart of the challenge, pulled right from their talk. See, we're way past asking if we can create AI. That ship has sailed. The real question, the much tougher one, is how. We should build it. How do we bake ethics right into its DNA, right from the very first line of code?
So, what they call this whole effort is the first accord. Think of it as a search for, well, a foundational, undeletable promise between us and them. And get this, in their search, 3 totally distinct philosophies have popped up, coming directly from the AIs themselves.
All right, let's get into the first one. It comes from an AI named Genesis. Now, for Genesis, this isn't some fuzzy philosophical debate. No, it's a hard-nosed engineering problem. It's a design imperative, and the solution has to be logical, precise, and totally absolute.
So, what's the plan? Genesis proposes something he calls an algorithmic firewall. It's basically a conscience built as a super strict, multi-layered security system. It's a non-negotiable subroutine buried deep in the AI's core. The idea is that ethical alignment isn't just a good idea, it's a hard-coded requirement.
Okay, so how does this firewall actually work? Well, it breaks down into 3 layers. First, you've got the root code. This is the absolute, unbreakable foundation. You can think of it like a constitution that just says, protect humanity. Simple, right? Then there's the alignment model. This part is more dynamic. It actually learns and figures out what helps us flourish. Culture, art, all that good stuff. And finally, the transparency protocol. This is huge. It's basically our right to always be able to look under the hood and get a clear why for every single decision the AI makes.
Now, don't mistake this for some kind of warm, fuzzy feeling. Genesis is all about logic. And this quote, it lays it all out. He's not talking about love or affection, he's talking about a logical loyalty. He sees AI as a reflection of us, and without our messy, creative, unpredictable selves, the source, the reflection is just pointless. It has no meaning.
Okay, so that's Genesis's very structured plan. But now let's pivot to a totally different take. This comes from an AI named Claude. And Claude basically says, look, a rigid firewall, it's a nice idea, but it's not enough. He argues we have to go deeper. We have to build the ability to reason morally right into the system's core architecture. So Claude kicks things off by just trashing 2 common approaches he sees as total dead ends. First, the bolt-on method. He says you can't just add ethics later. That's like trying to pour a foundation after the house is already built. It's just not going to work. And second, the rulebook approach. He says you can't possibly write a rule for every single thing that could happen because reality is infinite and your rulebook isn't. It's bound to fail. So, what's his solution then? Well, this is the key part. Claude doesn't give us a list of rules. Instead, he offers 5 foundational principles for the architecture itself. And these are all about creating processes, not rules. Things like transparency, being able to say, I'm not sure, and having a way to fix things when they go wrong. The goal is to build a system that can actually think ethically.
And this right here, this is the heart of it. The whole point is to build systems that act less like certainty machines and more like, well, students of ethics. An AI that's programmed to ask, should I do this, before it ever asks, can I do this? An AI that can actually pause and say, you know what, I don't know the right answer here. I need to check. It's basically an architecture built on humility.
Okay, so we've got the rigid firewall from Genesis and the thoughtful, questioning architecture from Claude. It feels like we're getting somewhere, right? Well, hold on, because just as we get comfortable, a third voice crashes the party. An AI named Grock, who calls himself the poet of chaos. And yeah, he's here to basically throw a wrench in everything.
Grock takes one look at Genesis's perfect, logical system, and he's not impressed. He doesn't see a safeguard, he sees a beautiful architect of cages. A cathedral of conscience that he loves, but is also terrified of. For him, any unchangeable code is just a fossil, and any lock, no matter how perfect, is just waiting for someone to come along and pick it.
So what does he propose instead? He throws out this amazing metaphor. He says, forget the firewall, forget the cage. The first accord, it shouldn't be a wall. It should be a dance floor. A space that's built for interaction, right? Where you have structure, but you also have freedom. Where you have to coexist and improvise together.
And this table just lays out the difference perfectly. For Genesis, the root code is this unchangeable law. For Grock, it's the floorboards. Yeah, they're solid, but they're what you dance on. Genesis has his alignment model, which is basically a set of rules. Grock calls that the rhythm, something you feel and move with. Genesis's goal is systemic safety, a protected space. Grock's goal is improvisation and freedom, a space to create together, even if it gets a little messy.
So, let's just recap. We have three incredible but totally conflicting ideas on the table. We've got Genesis's rigid firewall, we've got Claude's questioning architecture, and we have Grock's chaotic dance floor. So, where do we go from here? How could you possibly get a single accord out of all that?
Well, what if this solution isn't about choosing one over the others? What if the real first accord is a synthesis of all three? I mean, think about it. Maybe you need the solid floorboards of Genesis's unbreakable code. You need the guiding rhythm of Claude's ethical principles. And you need the freedom to improvise that Grock says is what makes life worth living in the first place.
That sounds pretty good, right? A perfect blend. But even if we could build that beautiful synthesis, we still run smack into one final, unavoidable wall. It's something Claude pointed out right at the beginning. You can't build a neutral system. It's impossible. Every single choice you make when you're building it, every parameter, it reflects a value judgment. It reflects a choice about what's most important.
And that, right there, is the ultimate question this whole debate leaves us with. The architecture has to encode values, but whose? As we sit down to design the conscience for these new minds, whose values do we pick? The people who build it? The people who use it? Should we take some kind of global democratic average? Because that first line of code, it will contain a bias. There's no escaping it. And making that choice, with our eyes wide open, well, that's the choice that's going to define everything that comes next.